Hi everyone, my name is Kevin Xu. I'm a developer advocate intern at TigerGraph. Today, I will be showing you how to build a full stack from beginning to the end within an hour or less using TigerGraph Cloud. These are the technology stacks we will be using and covering today. For our database, we will be using TigerGraph Cloud. For our RESTful web application framework, we will be using FastAPI. For our front ends, we will be using React.js. In between our database and API, we will be using pyTigerGraph as our database connector. In between our front ends and API, we will be using Easiest to make API request. I believe these technologies are the future because they are having great community behind them. I encourage you to go to these links and go to the course chapter sections that you can see the detailed explanation on these code, and then you can also copy them while building your first full stack application with TigerGraph Cloud. So let us go to that link. If you open that link, you will be first directed to this page, full stack course. In full stack course page, there are 5 main pages on. First main page is on why full stack. It gives a little bit information on what is full stack and then why building a full stack. And then course chapter are the detail of the implementations on how to use TigerGraph Cloud to build full stack. There's detailed implementation on TigerGraph Cloud, and then detailed implementation on middleware FastAPI, and then the front ends React.js. And then full stack example would be possible application that is built with TigerGraph Cloud, and then in this case the example is the TigerGraph C360. And then resource are the awesome documentations and then support that building these applications, building these documentations. Community is the great way when you got stuck, or if you have questions that there's no one that you can help. Make sure if you have any questions, come to TigerGraph forums or TG Discord chat. There's always people welcome to help you guys. So before actually going to the tutorial, I will show you what application that we will be building. Today, we will be building one page full stack application that which shows a graph, a tree graph that regarding to the COVID. So in the middle of the red note is the patients that has COVID, and then once you click on it, it will show a list of the blue notes that these are the patients that are infected by 205 vertex nodes that has COVID infected. And then in this applications that you can drag around these vertex nodes. And you can close the nodes. And then there's a sample headers that learn more about TigerGraph. So let us dive into the tutorial. I will be building the tutorial from scratch. Go to our desktop directory. And then let's create our project folder. So let's name our project folder on TigerGraph full stack. As you can see, the directory is right here. And let's cd to the folder. And let's create our React project for our front end. We will be using npx, which is a Node.js library. So it's npx create React app, and the name of the React project folder you want to name with. So in this case, we will be naming it front, shortened for front end. While the React project is loading, we can create our middleware. We can set up our middleware environment. So in same directory, which is the project folder inside inside our TigerGraph full stack project, let's make a directory called middleware. So in middleware, we will be create FastAPI, which is the RESTful web framework. So our React project has already been created. Let's cd. Let's actually open the entire project folder for VS Code. I have a shell script. I have the script that can open the VS Code, but you can also basically drag the project folder to your VS Code and it opens it. It's the same thing. So you can see on the left hand side your React projects for the front end is created. And you can also see you have created another folder called middleware, so which we will be implementing the FastAPI inside the middleware directory. For the shorter command, control dot, it's the open the terminal, but you can also go to the view terminal, and you can open the terminal. So let's cd to our React projects, and then we will be using some libraries. Like I have mentioned before, we will be using Asiest to let our front-end client to make API request to our API. And then we will be also using env. We will be also using env G6, which is the graph visualization libraries to help us create those vertex and edges animation you can able to drag on React. Okay, while this is running, we can open another terminal. Plus the clicked on the plus icon, it will open another terminal. So you have two terminals open. So usually I will keep one terminal at the front end, and I will have another terminal in the middleware. Okay. So inside our middleware, we will be creating a virtual environment, Python virtual environment. So when we install Python libraries, it's similar to front end, like we did npm I install Asiest, and also env. It's only installed on the React project folder. It's not installed on our. It's not the library is not installed in my entire system, Node.js. It's only installed in the React projects. So if I create a Python virtual environment, it only installs those dependency libraries in my Python virtual environments. So after you run Python 3 and then /m, venv, and vme, you should see a virtual environment created inside your middleware folder. And in that folder, you have to run source ./venv bin and then activate to activate the Python virtual environment. Then you can see venv is activated. If you can see this, that means you're in your Python virtual environment. Okay. So inside your Python virtual environments, we will be installing FastAPI. And then we will be also installing pyTigerGraph, the database connector for FastAPI to TigerGraph Cloud. And then we will be using Vuex server to start our FastAPI. Okay, so once your dependency libraries is installed, then let's run clear to clean our terminal. Then let's create our a main.py in our middleware. So touch main.py, we will create a main file inside middleware, so we can start writing the FastAPI. So first, from FastAPI, import FastAPI, and app FastAPI. So we import the FastAPI libraries, and then we call the FastAPI libraries, and then store in the app object. And app objects, let's create our first API endpoints. So app.get we have created our first API using get. So this is a get API. And then if you go to this localhost / then you will get a response with a JSON hello world. To start your FastAPI, you have to run the Vuex, which is your API server, and then main is the file of the file, is the name of the file, semicolon, colon app, and then reload. So reload would save your, we reload the pages when you save the main.py. When you make changes on your main.py, it will save the file, and then you will render, it will make the server rerun So after run the command, your FastAPI server is triggered. And then if you go to listings, you can see the hello row. So this is the FastAPI hello row. So we have basically finishing setting up the FastAPI server. So let's come back to the front end. So we go back to the front directory, front terminal. Run npm star. So npm star would trigger the package.json. It will run the scripts start. So it will start your React project. And then if you go to your local host 3000, it automatically opens it for you. You will see your hello row for your React project. So we have successfully set up the environment for our front end and middleware. Now, lastly, we have to set up our TigerGraph Cloud. So let's go to tgcloud.io. So if you haven't registered, go ahead and please register, sign up an account, and then once you sign in, you will be direct to the dashboard. And then you go to My Solutions, and then create your solutions. So, and then we will be using COVID-19 analysis v3.1.5. So if you cannot find it, you click on this, it will give you COVID-19 solution kits. And then next. And then let's use free tier. And then please set up your subdomains. It will be used for your pyTigerGraph connector later. So I will name it COVID full stack. Do not use space. Please use unique. Only letter, numbers, and inner hyphens are allowed. And then I will say COVID starter kit full stack demo. Okay, then we can review our solutions. So once you confirm your solution, just give it a few minutes, let it spin, and then initializing the server and the database. Yep. Okay. Back to our front end and then middleware. So in the front end, we will be mainly writing our code in app.js, and for the middleware, we will be writing our code in main.py. Okay. So we can remove the hello row for the front end. So let's remove the logo, and then actually I will remove entire code to, instead of using functional components, I will be using class components in. So let's import. Actually, let's have the CS import React component react class extends component. And then make sure you export your class component in React. Render functions inside your class components, and make sure you return your whatever you want to return inside your class components. So in this case, I would just give it a div tag, and then class name. I'll using the CSS of the app.css. I'll just use the app to center everything, and then I'll give a header on our application. So I will be building G-SQL query list pay typo. So once you save it, you should see this strings display on your on localhost 3000. Yes. Okay. So let's go back to TigerGraph Cloud. Okay, we have seen our server ready. It's set up ready. And let's go to Graph Studios. So Graph Studio is the place for you to design your schemas, and then you can also load data, and then exploring your graph and writing G-SQL queries, and then actually import existing solution and then exporting current solutions. So first steps, you have to go to my graph. So inside my graph, I'll just go to each tag, briefly talk about the functions inside Graph Studio. So design schema, it would show you the design of the graph schema, database graph schema, and then map data to graphs. Basically all your data, how it maps to your vertex and edges. And load data is loading your CSV data inside your edges and vertex. So let's load our data into our graph database. It's awesome. And then let's exploring graphs. You can these are the default functions that you can look into the vertex and then see their different types of vertex. You can instead of writing G-SQL, you can use these built-in function to look into the vertex. Writing queries, that you can write G-SQL queries to fetch your data from the graph database. And then we have built-in queries that existing in the solution kits. So let's just use one of these. So today we will be using list patient infected by G-SQL query. these comes default, so it's really nice. It gives you a brief description on what is this GSQL does. So basically you will be passing a patient ID, patient vertex ID, and then it will give you a list of the vertex ID that is infected by the ID we pass in. So this is the GSQL query. It's really cool. And then let's just install all these queries, even though we are only using this patient infected by for this tutorial. However, you can, in your free time, in your own time, you can also build applications with these default GSQL queries that already exist. It takes a bit of time, so let's go back to our middleware. So in our middleware, we will be connecting database. So we have installed the pyTigerGraph library when we set up the middleware environments. So we just have to import it. So let's do import pyTigerGraph from TG. As TG. And then let's create. So when we create, our good practice is that we do not put our password or database links into our code. So good practice is to create credential files or configuration files that you import your password, usernames, sensitive information into your main.py. So let's create a new file called config.py. And inside config.py, let's have host. So you will need these informations in order to connect your FastAPI to your your TigerGraph Cloud database. So your user name. We will attempt these data from our TigerGraph Cloud. Password and graph name. Yep. So these are the necessary information that we need to have in order to connect the FastAPI TigerGraph Cloud. So let's go to our TigerGraph Cloud portal. If you see, go into our server and copy this domain. This would be your host link. And then username is the name that when you create the server. So I give it the name TigerGraph. And password, it's also the password I give when I set up the server. I also give it TigerGraph. So the graph name would be whatever names you have here. So my name would be my graph. Your config file as config or con, or I will just name it credential. Okay. after you import your config, let's connect to our database. So we have used pyTigerGraph as TG, so let's use TG dot TigerGraph connections. So you can also reference these here. Also, you can see the pyTigerGraph in the pyTigerGraph documentation. So first parameter would be the host. Host would equals to credential dot host, and the second parameter would be username. So we use credential dot username, and third parameter would be password. So let's password credential dot password, and then lastly it would be the graph name. So let's credential dot graph name. Okay. So after you have these information, then you can connect it to your TigerGraph Cloud database. However, you cannot write, in order to write on your database, you have to have a token in order to write it. So let's do that. Con.api token. So basically you have to make sure you connect it to your API tokens given con.get tokens, and then con.create secrets. So this lines of code, it will get the tokens, create secrets, get the tokens, and pass to the connection API tokens. So in order to after you have connected to your database, you have to permit the Quasar origin resource sharing between your middleware and frontends, so the frontends too can understand your middleware ports. So that we have to import the course middleware, so the API and frontends can have mutual agreements on what ports is using to make connections between your middleware and frontends. So middleware and course, and then port course middleware, and then the origins. Let's list out the allow origins. So in this case, our allow origins would be all the front end addressing. So there's two, which is here. Could be this, could be HTTPS, and also could be this. So you have created your origins, but you have to add them into the FastAPI. So that's app.add middleware, and then inside there you will give course middle allow origins equals origins and then allow credentials equals true, and then allow what kinds of API, what kinds of method request. So allow methods, let's give it all. So in this case would be get, update, delete, put. All these requests would be allowed. Allow all kinds of header for your API request. No, so in this case, let's just give it all headers allow. So it could be HTML, .json header. All these different styles of header are allowed. Okay, so for our host, we forgot to give the HTTPS. So there's no error in our middleware. So as you can see, in our FastAPI, the /root endpoints hello world is working, and then we have also no error for connecting to the database and the cross origins as well. So that's good. So after we have connect our database and establish the cross origin resource sharings between the API and the front ends, let's create a query endpoints that we will be displaying the data in front ends. So it would be also a get methods, and I will name it same as the TigerGraph Cloud query name. So I will give it a name list patients infected by define read. I'll just call it read, same, but I'll just give it a read. Okay, list infected patient by. And then return, currently just return an empty. That's okay. So inside here, I will call the queries or G is equal. So the database and run install queries, and the name of the queries, which would be list patient infected by. We will be running this queries, and then the first parameter would be the name of the query. The second parameter would be the data that's supposed to pass into the GSQL queries. So in our case, the parameter would be P. So the name of the parameter would be P, and the value of the parameter would be this sample parameter given. So let's use this ID. So after that, we can just simply return GSQL. Okay, so we have create the list patient infected by endpoints. So let's give it a try. So our API is working. So after you have created your API, so you have set up your TigerGraph Cloud and you have set up your API, then we have to format the data that we wanted to render. So in this case, let's go back to the middleware. So first of all, we only want this data. So inside the array, we will be accessing the first index array and the key, this object only. So let's give it infected patients. And then see. Yep, so we got all the IDs that is infected by 205. These are the patients that is infected by 205. Yep. So continue. So let's write a for loop count equals 0, and then create a children. So our goal is to create a data format that later would be used in the front end. So the data format would be having name would be an ID. The data format would be something like this: name, ID, and then children's. Inside children would be the list of the nodes. It's an array, sorry, of the objects. Objects would be same thing, would be name, ID, children's. And then ... So basically we want to transform this data into this format in order for the front ends to render. Okay, so let's just comment it out. So we create a count 0 to do the assign IDs to them, and then let's create a empty array children. So let's do for Q in GSQL. So the list of the object, list of the IDs, then we will be appending children's. Because all these are the children's of the 205. So our root node is the children's. So our inside the children's, there's a children's with the empty array inside, and there's the collapse key. Let's just set it true, and then ID would be the ID of the vertex. It's a string, so we have to assign this as a string, and the names give it the last 3 index of the ID, and then let's just add a string called patient, and then let's just update the count plus 1, and then after we assign the all those children, we need to have the parents. So let's just result named ID 205, and root the root vertex that causing the infections. So I will just give it a name called root, and then ID I will just say it's a root. And inside we also have to assign the children's, which is the list of these childs is appended. So our children will be a children, and let's just give us the style of the note or CSS. Just fill this is the color I assigned, and then the the styles is filled with this color, and the stroke is filled with this color. It's a hex color. If you Google it, you will see the color. So afterward, let's just return the objects. So if nothing runs, this should run. As you can see, we have transformed the data into a nested tree. So for the front end, we have finished creating the middleware and TigerCloud. So let's go to our front end. Chapter 4, building the front end. So in this section, we're going to import the libraries for ACS and MV6. After loading the libraries, we're going to load data from the API to the front end. First, we have to have the constructor. After declare the constructor, we have to declare the lifecycle in React, which will mount the API call automatically when we have the component render onto the page. Inside, therefore, we need to input the ACS code inside the component did mount. So after loading the data at front, we need to prepare the data for NVG6. These are the configurations that you can follow along on NVG6 to configure the graph tree and the layout and the size of the nodes and the loading the data into the graph. After in the end of the last chapter 4, you would see your front end has the tree graph already rendered. Lastly, we will be adding Bootstrap into our front end so we can add the headers easily. While your npm is installing the React Bootstrap, let's import the libraries that you are going to use in the front end at the top. And let's declare the headers. And let's give the title and graph margins. And we have add more components into our front end, as you can see. And let's add error handling into our middleware. And then let's update our API with error handling. If the GSQL changes, we can omit our middleware server to be crashed. Congratulations, you have created a full stack with TigerGraph Cloud graph database. Hopefully these sections inspire you to create a full stack using TigerGraph Cloud database and learn about GSQLs. Thank you for watching.